The Bishop of Sokoto Catholic Diocese, Matthew Hassan Kukah, has advocated for a change of strategy in leadership selection process, as well as holding people in leadership positions accountable to the mass majority of Nigerians. Bishop Kukah made the call while delivering his Christmas message at the Holy Family Catholic Cathedral. Sokoto, the cleric, asked Nigerians to remain steadfast in the face of many challenges of insecurity, corruption, poverty, arising from the poor management of the nation's economy. He said despite challenges, Nigeria has had a chance to correct all these negativities by electing the right kind of leaders who sincerely love the country and are ready to work for the common good of all citizens.
The center has given up in almost every department. Fixing our country and getting it back requires courage, honesty, truth, humility, trust, and firm commitment. Lies and blackmail cannot be a substitute. In the light of this, I wish to appeal to Nigerians who have been given custody of our public trust and commonwealth through elections or appointment to rise up to the duties which they have been so handsomely rewarded. Those holding effective office must appreciate that they have not been entrusted with the keys of our commonwealth just so that they can turn it into their private money machines. History will record them and their roles, how they used the great opportunity God gave them among millions of other citizens to witness to Him and to do good.
Joining us on this show this morning to discuss his Christmas message to Nigerians is Bishop Matthew Hassan Kukah of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto. Good morning, Bishop. Thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Well, yesterday...
Good morning, Dr. Abati, and good morning, Rufai, and I'm seeing this beautiful lady for the first time. Well, I don't know her name, but
good morning, sir.
Her name is Ayo.
Good morning.
Ayo, Myro. Yes.
Very good.
Yes. Well, Bishop, yesterday in your Christmas message, you were saying that Nigeria needs a new strategy, and that in your estimation, the Buhari administration has failed. But the same president, was saying that he has made a lot of achievements in the area of infrastructure, and he's leaving behind a legacy that the next president of Nigeria should build upon. You admitted, of course, that you have seen quite some advances in the area of infrastructure, but you think that the president, still having just 22 weeks, more or less, to go, has left us more vulnerable than he met us as Nigerians. The APC thinks that that is an unfair assessment. In fact, they think it's an ungodly assessment and that you are biased. Are you guilty as charged by the APC?
Well, Dr. Abati, you know, you're a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But just sitting next to you is a brother, Rufai, who actually listed a catalog, which I'm sure he would have, if he had another 30 minutes, he would not finish, of this legacy. Which are they? Is it legacy of our still lack of power? Is it legacy of ASU, of the universities being shut down? Is it legacy? I mean, what legacy? If you talk about APC, I'm not aware of what APC's position is about my message. But whatever it may be, I mean, I state my mind when I deliver my message. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I'm resonating the message of Jesus Christ, who died on the cross, who was crucified. So don't get it, you know, when we speak as priests, we don't expect a round of ovation. Indeed, the angrier those in authority that are, the more ordinary people must understand that we are on the right path. I don't speak to insult or abuse anybody, but the facts are staring us in the face. And I don't think that anybody in his right frame of mind can pretend in any shape or form, you know, that we are where we ought to be, or that we even arrived at the destination that we were promised. Of course, a lot of things happen, you know, when governance takes off. Unlike the cabin crew will tell you, you know, when the plane is about to land, you know, just be careful when you are opening the locker, because items may have shifted in the course of flight. So yes, items do shift. But clearly, I'm not hearing, even from the APC in its campaign, a long list of these achievements and accomplishments that we want to continue on. I think that the APC in its campaign has also been quite strategic, because they know that they're running almost on an empty tank as far as promises, commitment, and trust to of government is concerned. So really, I'm not saying anything that is new, and I'd always like people to extrapolate what I'm saying, the facts that are on the ground. I'm not grandstanding. There's absolutely nothing that I'm saying that is not verified. So if APC is unhappy, that's actually fantastic because they need to then get their act together. I end on a very interesting note. Raji Fashola, the Honorable Minister, was delivered a convocation lecture in our university, Veritas. And he made a very interesting point. He said, when a team loses a match, they often say, we didn't lose, we just ran out of time. So I think there is a feeling now that people are thinking they ran out of time, is that we must return to the scene of the crime and ask what did we do wrong and how did we end up in the kind of situation we find ourselves. For me, those are the critical questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Now, talking about critical questions, you also asked a critical question in your Christmas message. You asked, why has progress eluded us? You even talked about the fact that we've had many seminars, we've had many conferences to discuss the Nigerian situation and the way forward without any, tangible results to show. You even asked that there must be something wrong with the people because things are not working. Now, we're coming into the election months in February and March, and we're going to be having conversations again like this. We're going to hear promises. We're going to go to the polls to get to vote. What do you think, in your view, is the problem of the Nigerian people in terms of the lack of progress, despite all efforts being made?
I walk across this country and people meet me at the airport, they meet me on the streets, they meet me everywhere, and they're congratulating me and they're saying to me, thank you for speaking for us. And I often say very frankly, please, I'm not speaking for you. I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm speaking for Matthew Kukah. If what I say resonates with you, that's fine. But this attitude that we can, more or less lease out our responsibilities to other people, and that people think, bishops should speak for us, church people should speak for us, our leaders should speak for us. No, politics is about engagement. And of course, yes, we do not have many miles. We've not covered a lot of miles in terms of being on the political terrain. We don't even have a political culture. You can see that what we call political parties really don't qualify to be called political parties, because almost every elections, people are contesting on changing platforms day in and day out. Look at all the candidates who are on the field today. There's nobody who has not moved in at least 3 or 4 different directions. So to the extent that political parties are seen as just mere vehicles for getting us to a destination, wherever that destination may be, the responsibility of ordinary Nigeria is to look at the text of the promises that people are making. And then political engagement after swearing in a president is not about what the president promised. If the president or they made all these promises, it is our responsibility to hold their feet to the fire. I didn't ask the APC to make the promises it made. I didn't ask the APC president to make the promises he made on May 29. I did not ask them to make the promises. I didn't ask him to promise that he's going to keep us safe. I didn't ask them to make promises that they were going to bring back our girls. I didn't ask them to make promises about giving us power and so on and so forth. In all of this, what kind of scorecard do they have? So what is missing in Nigerian politics? It's not that we are being governed by good men or bad men and women. It is that we lack the politics of engagement. And engagement is about confronting leadership with the text of their own promises. So a situation where the media, the church, civil society, all the people in the private sector, the bankers, people who just believe that bankers and the people believe if we can befriend the right governor, as long as it's bringing us hundreds of billions of money and our banks are full and we have very good credit cards, that's wonderful. It is not wonderful. Okay? If people just think that because they are in contract and they have managed to land the right contract and that political engagement is about self-enrichment, well, we're not getting anywhere. So for me, going forward, there's nothing like voting for the best president or all of these candidates are making promises. Will they fulfill the promises? They might try to fulfill the promises, but things might change. It is the responsibility of ordinary people to remind people whom they voted for that this has not happened. We need to see more boots on the ground and on the streets. Nigerians need to demonstrate their anger. And they can demonstrate that anger without breaking anybody's property by just going out publicly with a show of resentment about the fact that things are not the way. We see what is happening in other countries. So we cannot sit in the comfort of our homes and assume that good people are just going to govern us and deliver all the promises they made.
Okay, 2 questions. At the start of this year, Deborah was killed. Till date, where are we as regards justice for Deborah? And secondly, on the 18th of December, 38 people in southern Kaduna were killed. How does all of this make you feel?
I'm actually sitting here in the cathedral because I have mass for children, in another hour or less. If you look out of the window here, I cannot show you. You will see the glasses of our cathedral of our hall that were broken. You will see the vehicles that were destroyed. Our pastoral center was destroyed. And one of our churches was destroyed. For what? We didn't quarrel with anybody. We didn't say anything to anybody. You have a situation where in northern Nigeria, across northern Nigeria, you have a reservoir of young people who simply at the slightest provocation, whether it concerns Islam or whatever, whether it has got anything to do with the church, the question Nigerians should ask themselves, what have Christians done that our churches, our properties, our hospitals, which are serving the majority of Muslims, have become objects of target practice? For example, what did the trial of Deborah have to do? The governor simply announced that these people who did this were going to be tried. How would that provoke young people to go and start destroying the properties of Christians? Because they went to the shop. We have verifiable evidence of young people going out to shop. So this is Okafor's shop. This is a Christian shop. Let's pass this one. It belongs to. These things are done openly. When a president wants to tell me about wishing me a happy Christmas, I need to hear him say, no Christian, nobody in this country can lose their life because somebody stood up somewhere and said he wants to defend, his religion. People have been killed across this country. Christians have remained vulnerable, and in many respects, their infrastructure and their businesses remain, just as I said, objects of target practice. You organize a Miss World contest, churches are bombed across northern Nigeria. You draw cartoons in Denmark, churches are destroyed in northern Nigeria. As I'm talking to you, when the president says he's wishing me a happy Christmas as a Christian, I need to hear the president tell me I can build a church anywhere in Dora if I apply for land. As it is, it's not possible. I need to hear the president say professors who are in universities in northern Nigeria, Christian students who are in universities in northern Nigeria, across the whole of the country, can have places of worship. As I'm talking to you, universities 40, 50 years up till today in most universities in northern Nigeria, the Christian community has no place of worship. So when people stand and look at me in the face and say, we're wishing you a happy Christmas, I need you to walk the talk. So if you ask me, what am I supposed to say? And guess what? I'm supposed to fix my church back. I'm supposed to fix back properties that were destroyed. Businessmen are supposed to find money from where to rebuild their businesses. So, this is the country we are living in. And it is unacceptable. And because we left a lot of these things unattended, what you are seeing, many Christians have lived with it. We've lived with it. So at periods of this nature, I don't want anybody to grandstand and say that we should imitate Jesus Christ or that we should be. We know what it is. I don't need anybody to come. I'm converted to Christianity. But it should be on record in this country that by being a Christian or by being a Muslim, you've not committed an offense. So I feel and I believe and I know the facts are there. They are verifiable. Christians living in northern Nigeria are living in fear. Despite our massive contribution to the economic well-being of the states in which, despite our being law-abiding, but every church you are building, you are living in fear because you don't know what is going to happen. And when these things happen, nobody gets tried. So these are the questions that we need to resolve. Deborah's family, as you know, are no longer living here. They are now living in Rivers State. Okay? Because I'm sitting here as Bishop of Sokoto. My parishioners are moving. They are moving in droves. Everybody is sick and tired. Okay? Everybody is tired.
Well, Bishop, in your homily, you talked about nepotism and how the Buhari administration has handed over power, entrusted power and government into the hands of mediocres. Now, can you identify some of these mediocres and possibly, if there are exceptions to them? And you talked about an institutionalized caste system. Can you also identify the caste that you are talking about? Because on the question of nepotism, spokespersons to the president have given alternative facts, saying that, no, this is the government of all Nigerians. But you are insisting that there is a caste system, a cult that has hijacked Nigeria. Who are the principal culprits in this regard, and who are the exceptions?
Dr. Abati, I am sure you know yourself. You know far better than myself. I'm not here to. I don't need to name I don't need to name names. But if the right people were in the right places, will we be where we are in all the? Even the failure of the Buhari administration has perhaps very little to do with the good intention of Buhari himself. I am convinced that President Buhari has had the best intention. But I think that I don't need to name any names for you to know why things are failing. If people had the competence and the capacity, why would we be where we are today? You are hearing which kind of government, what will allow one human being to steal as much as 100 billion and nobody can figure out how these monies are moving? You have a system of an architecture of governance that has been designed in a way and manner. And this is what nepotism does. Whether these things are based on gender or race or whatever, when you privilege power and put it in the hands of people on grounds of blood relationship, or on grounds of religious affinity, or in whatever shape or form, what you're doing is that you are laying down a mattress of comfort. So people will steal, and they know that the next person who is supposed to have oversight, prays with them, is the same tribe. So what will happen? The nepotism in this government has many faces. It's blood, it's also religion. I'm not the one to tell you. You know yourself. Why are we having problems with whether it's fight against corruption, whether it's fight against banditry, whether it is all these humongous sums of money you are hearing, that are moving in different directions? What is the cause of it? So the things I'm saying are not new. These things have characterized governance in Nigeria. If President Buhari goes tomorrow and somebody else becomes president, Yoruba man, Igbo man, Efik man, whatever, the language in the bill will change. So nepotism has only been consolidated as a system of government. And the result is a kind of lack of feeling of transparency and honesty that we are seeing in the system. So I don't have to name any names. I don't have to name any names, but you live in this country, you know the facts better than myself. Okay, I'm not the one to tell you. Everybody who is serious about this country knows that the recruitment process lacks transparency in Nigeria. This is why we are hemorrhaging so bad. Because how do you get a job? There are people who are holding positions today that elsewhere, even where they have come from, they would never have risen to the position they've risen to. But they've gotten to that position because they worship in the right church, in the right mosque, or they speak the right language. So this is the point I'm making, and it's not new to Nigeria. So please wake up and smell the coffee.
All right. In your earlier response, you touched on the tensions along religious lines, and in your message, you cited Egyptian President Fattah and also Pope John, the Pope, in terms of their promoting religious harmony. What can religious leaders in Nigeria do to better the lot of religious harmonies in the country?
Some of my critics, and I wish they were a bit honest with themselves, they say to me, you are dividing our people. I say, well, there is a difference between light and darkness. So yes, I'm not afraid. There's a difference between truth and lies. So yes, I'm dividing because there has to be a separation between, day chases out darkness. The point to make is, I keep saying, okay, Can you tell me one single day in which a church was destroyed, or maybe a mosque destroyed, or whatever? Can you imagine the difference it would make if a president, if a governor, if a traditional ruler, bishop, imam, emir, if they went to condole with the Christian community and are able to make those statements very clearly? What is happening to us in Nigeria as Christians, and it didn't start today, but it has started over a long period of time. And indeed, I have argued this is what gave vent to Boko Haram. Because when leaders go around making grandstanding statements about what they will do with religion, you weren't elected to build mosques, you are not elected to build churches, you are elected, what use is it for us to have governors or ministers or presidents building mosques or contributing to mosques when we don't have the roads on which we can, drive or even going to the churches? It's not their responsibility. So the point I'm making is, Al-Sisi in Egypt has done things that up till 10 years ago or so, why did the Islamic Brotherhood produce a president? Now, the level of animosity against Christians in Egypt was palpable, and the level of discrimination. But Al-Sisi has covered a lot of grounds in this regard. And like I pointed out in my message, and there is evidence. The evidence is there in my message. Can you imagine what it will mean for the president of Nigeria to come to Usman Dan Fodio, to go to Bayero University and lay the foundation for the building of a church in an environment of that nature? Can you imagine what it will mean to a small Muslim population, whether it's whether it is in Oka or whether it is anywhere, for a president who is a Christian or governor to go there and oversee the building or the reconstruction of a mosque? These are the symbolic gestures that ordinary people did. But what we have is presidents, governors continue to throw raw meat at the fanatics and the extremists. Because when you say nothing, your silence can be taken as complicity. And this is what is appeasing all this. So somebody goes around, and if you look at the rest of West Africa, or even Africa, Islam, there are maybe 94, 95% of the people in Senegal are Muslims. 96 or 97% of the people in Gambia are Muslims. Why is it that it's only in Nigeria you hear characters talking about jihad? You don't hear anybody talking about jihad anywhere else in the world, except in Nigeria here, where people are still maintaining a mindset that has moved on, and the political elite refuses. They are taking an inspiration from the poor people who don't know much.
Okay.
And this is because people are afraid of their constituency. And once you are afraid of their constituency, a leader must take his people to where they don't want to go, because he has a vision.
Okay.
But what we have is people are afraid of this constituency that they harvest for elections.
Okay.
So you mesmerize them by building mosques or building churches, as the case may be. You are refusing to give people an education, and then you presented Christianity and Christians as the cause of our problem because it's an alien religion.
Okay.
So these are the issues we must try and resolve.
Okay. So we have about 2 minutes to go. You've talked about nepotism and all of that. I'll tell a quick story. America had this problem until a certain president called Rutherford Hayes destroyed the back of what we used to call spoils men in America. He said, we'll go the right of merit in government. When do you see that we might probably have a Rutherford Hayes in Nigeria that will say, I will not go the path of nepotism? You think we can do it in the 2023 elections?
Well, look, I think that we're being unfair to ourselves. The president you're talking about, almost a few hundred years or so down. With the situation in Nigeria, we've not even begun to lay the foundation stone for how a just democratic society might emerge. What we are practicing in Nigeria just glorifies feudalism, okay, with a little bit of sprinkling of the tenets of democracy. These people don't understand what the principles of democracy are. For them, democracy, okay, if that's what you want, yes. But at the back of it all, we want a different state altogether. Because you cannot be having these shrill voices in which people are telling you they want to live under Islamic law, they want to live under Christian. We can only have one law, okay, which derives all the laws that derive from the Constitution. But right now, if we were serious and we have a sense of enforcement, then this young girl would not have been killed in vain and nothing happened. People will not be slaughtered in their sleep and nothing happens. Because when nothing happens, as I said, you are throwing red meat at those who have, and this is where they derive their sense of heroism from. So we need people who have the capacity to understand that, first of all, you must create a line in which common citizenship exists. And that irrespective of where you are, whether you are Christian, Muslim, when the Muslims who are living in America or living in Europe, do you hear them worry about everybody is subordinated to the Constitution? But in Nigeria here, somebody can kill you and he's saying that it is my religion that has asked me to do so. And when I confront my Muslim friends, they are prepared to whisper about this conversation, but not raise their voices. So for me, those things are possible. After all, Obama would not have come to the surface in America. Ms. Harris would not have emerged as vice president of America today. 8 Nigerians would not have been appointed to the administration of Joe Biden. We wouldn't have the kind of thing we have in England now, where the descendant of immigrants is now prime minister. Unless and until you lay a foundation and punish those who don't want to live under the Constitution, unless you create a power of common citizenship, would we, for example, given where we are now, and given what Christians have suffered in Nigeria, if you mentioned my state of Kaduna, okay, the governor defies everybody and thinks that, okay, the only people in southern Kaduna can do business must be Muslim. Well, that's fine, if that's what he believes. But how has Kaduna become the most volatile and the most disrupted state in Nigeria, in parts of northern Nigeria today? Why have so many people died? If having a Muslim governor and a Muslim president were a Muslim governor and a Muslim deputy governor were the issue. So all these people who continue to use religion are making our country more vulnerable. So right now we are living as Christians and Muslims. And that's why you may have the elections.
Yes,
but we need a Nigerian presidential candidate that can tell us how he's going to resolve problems of this nature when they rear themselves up.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time this morning. The Bishop of the Diocese of Sokoto, Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kukah.